the Around the NFL podcast. The home of Sessler After Dark.
From the Chris Wessling podcast studio, it's Around the NFL, the Week 14 Sunday recap. Whoa. There it is, After Dark, so you're going to get a vibey Marc Sessler along with Gregg Rosenthal, heroes both. I'm Dan Hanzus. Boys, how about this? Listen to this right now as we record. Here we go.
I refuse to.
What?
Listen.
Oh, okay. Let's get the show going
in a
positive way. Mr. Rosenthal, the AFC wild card situation. Wild. There are 6 teams at 7-6. 6 teams at 7-6. Pittsburgh, Indy, Houston, Denver, Cincy, Buffalo. The NFC, they got the Vikings, the team of ATN. They're 7-6, so that's nice as well. And then 5 teams with 6 wins. So it should be obvious. There's a lot to be determined in this final stretch of the regular season, and it's really hard to tell who's what. It's like you're in a house of mirrors trying to figure out what teams to really believe in right now.
Yeah, like when I was like a young kid, I used to spend, and I became obsessed with football. Like back then, like with a pen and paper, I'd go through these like playoff things like in my room for hours, but nothing back then was like this because there were always 6 or 7 dominant teams and some trash. They're all cobbled together right now.
Right. We thought the AFC was going to be the better conference going into this year. It is, but for a different reason. Like at the top, it's not. But they do have 11. We do have 11 teams in the AFC above 500. Basically eliminated 5, and everything else is up for grabs. I thought this was the best Sunday of the year.
A very good Sunday, especially the early window, and then we had the game we're going to talk about right now because one of those teams entering action. Hoping to be 7-6 was the Buffalo Bills. It was a game they absolutely needed. And guess what? They went and they got it at Arrowhead.
Mahomes in the shotgun, 2 receivers left, 1 to the right, and Kelsey in motion coming over left to right. Here's the snap. Back to pass. And pressure coming. Throws it deep down the middle of the field. It falls incomplete. Turnover on downs. Buffalo football with 55 seconds remaining. The defense holds.
Oh, indeed. Chris Brown with the call. WGR. The Buffalo Bills. It's been a season of frustration. And yet, with kind of seemingly everything on the line, or at least it felt that way in this game, they find a way to get it done. And maybe, and we're going to get to it, some great fortune in this case involving Kadarius Toney and where he put his right foot on a fateful play by the Chiefs on their last drive, but it doesn't matter. 2017, Bills get the win. So, yes, they are one of the 7-6 teams. And Mark, Josh Allen, the numbers don't jump out at you in this game. It's not like he had one of those classic games, but it was such a great Josh Allen game to me in how often he saved the Bills from catastrophic plays, big sacks, big swings of momentum, and he kept on making great plays, keeping plays alive. It was vintage in so many ways.
I thought he totally responded. When not the entire team did around him at times, there was one play that comes up first for me was just a classic Josh Allen improvisational dose of magic where it was a 4-yard completion to Dalton Kincaid on 4th and 1. He had no business even being around to make that throw. And this is the kind of thing that only Josh Allen can do. There was I thought, absolutely pivotal moment late in the game where it is 17-17. They're driving to, essentially get a field goal. And he almost took a sack, or he should have if he were a different human, that would have put them out in dangerous worlds outside of where you would want to be kicking a field goal. Instead, he found a way to elude the enemy and again find Kincaid for just a 1 yard.
Near the sideline, or is that the play you're talking about?
It was right before the field goal. It's for the 1 yard completion, and it's I feel like that saved them 12, 13 yards or something. It would have been completely fatal. And so, it's like they don't look completely together to me on offense. This was a team effort. But Allen showed us what he can do and why they're in this moment, and you can't count them out on any level. This was a huge victory for the Bills. Season saving.
Right. Their season I would have finally said it is over now. And I know they would have only been one game back of all the 7-6 teams, but they had been in these games week after week after week. And Romo said on the broadcast how they've given up 3 leads in the final minute, Sean McDermott's defense. So for their defense, with some absolute fortune to take advantage of that fortune after the call on Kadarius Toney and make 3 great plays in a row, it is worth mentioning. Ed Oliver getting that tip there on 3rd and 15. Leonard Floyd, a great pickup to hit Mahomes' arm on 4th down. There's no rule that's saying the Bills aren't going to give up a game-tying field goal in that situation anyways after getting the fortune, so they took advantage. And, yeah, Allen, to me, the key play of that final drive is the design run on 3rd and 2, and it's just like it's Allen season. It's design run, I'm going to scramble, and I'm going to get it season.
All right, let's talk about the Toney play. 2nd and 10 near midfield. In fact, let's listen to it. Let's listen to Chiefs radio, Mitch Holthus and company, on what it looked to be a dramatic go-ahead trick play touchdown that turned into a penalized play for Kansas City.
17 Buffalo. They send another blitz. Selling out. Flag on the play. Might be a free one. They've got Kelsey at the 30. Kelsey 25. Angling back. 20. Now he's going to lateral it back at the 15-yard line. It's Toney. 10, 5. Touchdown. Kansas City. They mess around in practice with this all the time. It's going to go with a 49-yard touchdown. Kelsey, the old University of Cincinnati quarterback.
Number 19, offense, lined up in the neutral zone. 5-yard penalty. Check it out.
Who was it on?
On Kadarius.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my goodness, indeed. Kadarius Toney, who set the tone for the whole season, really, in week 1 on Thursday night with that brutal game of drops against the Lions. And I said it as we were gathering around the monitor to watch his last drive, but I just had a feeling, and you don't need to be some type of seer to see this, that a wide receiver would betray Mahomes again on this pivotal drive for their chances to be the number 1 seed. And not only does it happen, it's Toney again, who was legitimately offsides. His foot was in the neutral zone. Now, why is Pat Mahomes going insane after the 4th down incompletion? Frustration. That happened a few plays later. But also because on the 3rd and long, Von Miller had lined up and gone off sides, and there was no flag. So you had the frustration of them, eyeballing Toney the way they did and then missing Von Miller and Andy Reid, who's not, just like you're not known to see Mahomes as angry as we saw him on the sideline. Andy Reid was openly critical of the officiating. You could sense the frustration all around this operation.
I never use any of this as excuses, but normally I get a warning before something like that happens in a big game. A bit embarrassing in the National Football League for that to take place.
Wow. So, and yeah.
That is strong.
I don't know if that you get fined for that, maybe. And if you do, Reid can handle that. But that's, 2 weeks in a row now where the Chiefs feel like they're on the wrong end of a pivotal officiating in the game. But once more, guys, you can't just look at the officials with the Chiefs, because at the end of the day, in their building, it was the other team's quarterback that you remember the plays, and it was the Chiefs scoring 17 points. This is just who they are, and they can't figure it out. And it's the wide receivers over and over and over and over killing them.
I'd say with the Chiefs that when they had that week 1 meltdown against the Lions, season starting not in any way that you'd want it to, and we were given evidence that the whole internal wideout crew was not going to be what you'd wanted maybe. And Toney obviously stood out in that one. And you have today, and they're 8-5. They're 2 games behind the Baltimore Ravens, and you could, from a certain point of view, say Toney cost them 2 games. But it's not just him. It's like this cast of wideouts around Patrick Mahomes. You thought by now they'd develop. They'd be somewhere else. Like someone would have stepped up. Toney, when all summer was talked about as a potential so-called number 1. Well, he's been sort of one of their number 1 nuisances.
Guys,
he was off the field the rest of the drive.
Yeah, and you feel for him as a human, but it's like, oh my God. They are 1 game up on the Broncos now in the division. It's getting into a very weird place, unprecedented in the Mahomes-Reid era.
And yet, they still have a chance at the 1 seed. It'd be pretty hard. They're back 2, but
they keep telling us though, Greg, that they're not going to go on that run. To get in there.
I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm just looking at what the Ravens and Dolphins, who play each other and have to go through. Like everything is wide open. Rashee Rice has stepped up, and you're getting on me, Dan, in the newsroom for pointing out. I've been saying, Rice isn't a guy to build the whole plane around because he doesn't really run all the routes and you can't do everything.
He's a developing player with a lot of promise.
That catch he made on the last drive around midfield was fantastic. I mean, that is a starting wide receiver type of catch. Not even really open, but a great throw, great catch in that scenario. And that was the point where they get to midfield with tons of time and timeouts because the Bills hadn't handled the situation well. And Sean McDermott, like he has a lot this year, is just calling blitz after blitz. He is very different than Leslie Frazier. He continued to come after them early in that drive, and it wasn't really working. He gets bailed out a little bit, and then the four-man pass rush, Oliver and Floyd and Jordan Phillips really did impact those last three plays. And I choose to believe, because I was kind of rooting for the Bills.
You were? You had picked them in one of your many
it's game
endeavors.
Debut. We're picking him. I keep thinking this Bills team is better than it is and waiting for it to show up. I choose to believe Josh Allen would have gone down the field in 72 seconds because he had a lot of time left there. The game was not over. And maybe
if you look at him in that,
could have had a classic, and we were robbed from that part of the classic.
Yeah, you were celebrating the 4th and long incompletion. We're like, Greg, we're trying to watch something cool.
Well, he's
here.
got his personal interest in this.
Yeah.
Why can't we celebrate? We're watching football.
Like the Josh Allen in that Eagles game, right? Then the bye happens. It feels like a long time ago. With that and this, I do think the play calling switch worked in some sense where they're letting him do more what he does. I don't think they have another choice but just to let him do what he does.
Right.
But we're getting kind of
great.
He also said, like they talked up in the broadcast, that he said he's not felt this healthy like in years. And he looks like it. So I think it is a situation where you could look at the Bills as like, record aside, if they start to heat up and you get this version of Josh Allen, like, I don't know where they're going to wind up.
Yeah. So weird to see Mahomes that angry. Like he is. Do we have that, by the way? Do we have the footage? You can check it out on YouTube. That is, and yes, he's mad at the officiating because he's the one that saw Von Miller and thought he had a free play. But this is a lot of things you're seeing that are boiling over with this team, and it's still weird to watch. It's strange to watch this team in that money spot to instead of think what we've always thought. Oh, nice try, Bills, but you miss Gabe Davis again on that, and you go to Kincaid and then kick the field goal. That's going to cost you the game because Mahomes is going to make you pay. That doesn't happen anymore.
No, not automatically.
And it's not going to happen until they fix the roster, and you can't do that until after the Super Bowl. So that's where they are. Let's keep moving. Great start, fun game, but it wasn't the game of the day. That was in Baltimore.
Ethan Evans punting to Tylan Wallace. Evans hangs a wobbler. Wallace settles under it at the 25. Gets a block. Comes to the near side. 30. Spins out of one tackle. 35. Along the near sideline. 40. He's at midfield. Wallace to the 40. Still in the
come on.
30,
How many tackles are we going to miss?
10. Celebration time. No flags. Wallace in the end zone. Hayes in the barn. And the Ravens win in overtime.
Man. Yeah. A walk-off punt return. It's only happened twice this season. So give up the bongos. Now let's give it up for Rams special teams. That always finds a way. 3 missed tackles on that. Anyway, here we go. His first game ever, boys. Returning punts as a pro. Tylan Wallace goes 76 to the house in OT to lift Greggy's Ravens 37-31 over Greggy's Rams. I know it's confusing, but that's the way it is. Anyway, the game winner came following a wild end to regulation that included a dramatic third and forever TD strike from Lamar to Flowers, and then a game-tying field goal by the Rams in the final seconds of regulation. But in the end, Greg, they found a way, the Ravens, which is progress, I think, because this felt like the type of game that in the past this season, the Ravens found a way to lose. Not this time.
Oh, yeah. When the Rams got the ball in overtime after the Ravens went 3 and out, I am thinking, good night. Rams are going to go.
How about 1st and 10 at the 30
right.
At the end of regulation? I was thinking, uh-oh.
Yeah, I think the Rams are going to win this game, and the Ravens found a way to do it. And we'll get to all the quarterback play. It was a fantastic game. We're going to watch it for our game of the week on NFL Plus. So there is a lot to dig into. And yet, in a game like this, sometimes it really does come down to special teams. Devin Duvernay got injured during the game, and that's the only reason why Wallace was the punt returner. And Harbaugh said he thought about going to Zay Flowers because, let's be real, Zay Flowers is just like a more dynamic player. But Wallace had been the guy in practice all season. Duvernay, who, according to my Twitter search, Ravens fans are sick of, who, even though he was a Pro Bowl returner, all he ever does is catch fair catches, and they're like, oh, there's no way he would have even returned that one. And Wallace makes one of the plays of the year.
The concerns of 10-3 teams and 11-3 teams. Yeah.
And it was against the last-ranked Rams special teams all season long. It's not just their kicker, who actually came through today in tough situation. All season long, their special teams have let them down. And I was getting on Harbaugh and the Ravens, who are big about special teams early in the year when they were really low in those rankings. And they've climbed higher and higher, and they're better than average now. And their kick returns, their kicker, Justin Tucker, had a nice day. Hit some big kicks in tough conditions. And then the special teams stole them a game to keep them on top of the AFC North. Otherwise, that division would seem up for grabs.
And the way that the game started, I thought was optimistic for Baltimore and tells us that they're growing, because you had the Isaiah Likely 54-yard touchdown. Odell Beckham is a factor now, where he was just a theory.
4 for 90,
yeah, right?
4 for 97, and 2 of those grabs were really
he's a guy on their offense.
Difficult.
That's
grabs.
a huge development for them. I think looking from the Rams side, they started out really hot in this. Like Matthew Stafford, games in a row has been on fire, but it's like they got figured out in the second half here by Baltimore's defense to come out after a really optimistic first 30 minutes to punt 4 straight times.
But they finished so strong, and that's why this game went from really interesting, good, 2 fun teams, 20-17 at halftime. You had 2 high-level quarterbacks to a truly great game, because the end of the fourth quarter, both quarterbacks just took over. The Rams get the ball back with 8 minutes to go, and Stafford leads just a Cooper Kupp touchdown drive where he is doing everything. This was an old-school Cooper Kupp game, 8 for 115 in a touchdown. He leads them down the field to Lamar Jackson, gets the ball back, needs a touchdown. And I know this won't feel like an MVP moment. He's going to have to keep stacking. But those 2 throws, when they needed a touchdown, he gets a touchdown drive in response. 3rd and 17 to Zay Flowers was just a dime of a throw. And then the 2-point conversion, they sort of didn't make a big enough deal about it on the broadcast. That was a ridiculous play by Lamar Jackson to avoid pressure, step up, get smashed, and hit the 2-point conversion. And if he doesn't hit that 2-pointer, they don't win this game, because Stafford drove right back with a nice drive. So it was really high-level quarterback play by both these guys.
On the ground, too, by Lamar. This is
that
11 for 70 on the
Lamar.
ground.
I love the body language from Zay Flowers after the 2-point conversion as well. It's just I'm that guy. This is the guy that Lamar has been looking for years. I have finally arrived, and I've taken this offense up the next notch. Do we have, I know it's in a losing effort, but we like to track calls of the year, and our intrepid producer, Eric, who's having a nice Sunday, Bills are alive and well, he was in his car rolling in, and he got a great JB Long call.
Right, yeah. Coming in, it's usually either the Chargers or the Rams on my radio, and this was the go-ahead score late in the game. Here you go.
Let's hear it.
2nd down and goal from the 5. Has a snap, helmet high, looking left now, middle pressure. He steps up, he throws right side, end zone. Caught! Caught back right pylon. DeMarcus Robinson with the go-ahead score. Matthew Stafford playing like an ellipsis. Dots after dots after dots. Touchdown, LA.
That's our dude, JB. By the way, I said on Thursday that I see him all the time in the barbershop. I've actually never seen him in the barbershop. I was thinking after
found
the
that
show,
statistically to be weird.
I see him out and about, and we stay in touch, and then we've hung out in a park before with our families, but we go to the same barber. So a little correction there by the
That's
insider.
important to get it accurate.
That is the type of things. Some insiders brush things under the rug. Some people own their errors. JB Long with that call, and it is interesting, yeah. And again, it's in a losing effort, but Stafford's pocket movement there. He is having such a great year.
This is I can see why Sean McVay is having fun, and they are very much alive, obviously, and they have Washington, the Saints, the Giants, 3 arguably broken teams, and then the Niners to close out the season.
Yeah,
so
this one would have.
I know this is a crusher. This is a total.
This
crusher,
one would have taken it to a different level, like a level where, ooh, we're a fun story. You might get to the 7th seed of we just beat maybe the best team in the NFL on the road straight up. Because for most of this game, Lamar looked a little out of rhythm. It was just him making plays. The Rams, I thought were a little more consistent throughout the game. Their defense was playing well, and then for it to end the way it did with McVay just having the same issues that he always have. So you mentioned they had the ball on the 30 with plenty of time left still.
I didn't like the play calling or just the vibe or energy of that drive from that point on.
I totally agree. And part of it was they ran out of time at one point, had to use a timeout late. They took a delay of game. And then in overtime, they get the ball back. They have, I believe it was a 2nd and 4 on their first drive of overtime on the 31. And they take another delay a game. This is the history of the Sean McVay Rams. And some Rams fans was like, how do you know it's McVay's fault? Like, what about Stafford? It's like, I don't know. It's been happening more than to them more than any other team since the moment they got there. So it's just like this one little bugaboo, the game management stuff and the like taking a while to get the play. And it killed them. The next play that their tight end dropped a pass to that maybe wouldn't have gone for a first down. And then the next play is
Are they like
touchdown.
missing someone on their staff, you think, that would be like, don't do this right now, do this instead?
No, I think it's just McVay gets caught up in the moment. That's what happened. They had to burn a timeout. He got caught up in the moment on a play before, and then like the play call doesn't come in time. I think
maybe they should hire a guy that's great at close situations, late timing, and knows how to pick guys for special teams. Like maybe if you get two birds, one stone.
Right.
There's got to be somebody out there.
Monster.com could find that person.
And shout out to Cooper Kupp, by the way. 8 for 115 and a touchdown. He had been under 50 yards receiving in 6 straight games.
And he was awesome. A lot of the yards were after the catch. Puka was awesome.
Nakua is just like...
Kyron Williams was awesome. They went away from the run too much.
Mark almost fainted just
right.
now.
Why? No, I just like because I'm trying to watch all these games, but I saw the one catch he made. I'm just like, this guy doesn't have a bad game. He doesn't disappear.
He doesn't. They ran the ball 7 or 8 straight times to start the game to get inside the 10, and then they got a little pass happy after that. One injury to watch, Kyle Hamilton, to me, who is the most important player on the Ravens defense, maybe except Roquan Smith, but it's the two of them. He left with a knee injury, and just the way Harbaugh talked about the MRI to come, that's something to watch.
Uh-oh. We got to get like a fainting chair next time we do a Rams game. Mark had the vapors there for a second.
I mean, I would say typically I survive Rams recaps without any issues.
But that's before Nakua showed up.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, my.
That's true.
He is one talented wideout.
That is how I actually speak.
All right, let's keep moving. Let's head to San Francisco, where the Niners are just inevitable.
It's 3rd down at 11 here. They send Debo inside of Brandon Ayuk right, Kittle inside of Juwan Jennings left, and McCaffrey goes in motion, that bumper motion out right. Blitz from Bobby Wagner, they pick it up. Deep shot, Brock Purdy's going downfield for Debo! Touchdown! San Francisco!
My goodness. What an MVP race we got now, buddy. It's between Lamar and Purdy, and we're going to talk about Sunday Night Football. 2 combatants in the mix there. It's really starting to heat up here. Great call, Greg Papa, as always, and Brock Purdy was in his bag once more with a career-high 368 yards passing. Deebo Samuel, who's as productive as any player in football right now, scored 2 more touchdowns, including that long TD strike. Kittle had a long touchdown catch. Christian McCaffrey quietly goes over 145 yards rushing, and the Niners win 28-16 over the Seahawks. Mark, you watch this game closely. Not even a perfect outing by the Niners, but they're so good that they don't have to be.
Yeah, they kind of won it in a atypical fashion for some of these Shanahan outings on offense, because it seems absurd to suggest they didn't have like an excellent clean outing on the day. They had 527 yards.
Oh, stop.
Okay, and 28 points. So there's, but
that's good.
That's 8 plays of 25 plus yards that ate up 280 total, and it's like something about all of them right now are operating at like a level beyond human. Like they were all in sync. It's like I think at other parts in the season, you kind of had Debo was hurt for a bit. You'd have guys disappear for a little bit, like George Kittle. They are all right now on fire. I mean, the throw to Debo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey opens the game with a 72-yard run that sets up a touchdown. Brandon Ayuk is catching a 45-yard bomb. George Kittle had a 44-yard catch off a laser. I mean, Purdy is making these throws, and he's making them beautifully, and there was some incredible stuff happening. But they were able, early on in the game, they came out with the touchdown triggered by that McCaffrey long run. Then it was a punt. Another punt. Brock Purdy had an interception. And it was like Seattle was hanging around, and you were like getting maybe not the best version of the
With
Niners.
Drew Lock, not Geno, who is inactive in this game.
Absolutely. Geno sitting from the sideline. And Lock wasn't like a huge problem early. He threw 2 interceptions in the final 14 minutes or something. But the Niners worked their way out of it, not with, a 14-play type drive, but this time around, like 3, 4, 5-play drives capped by massive explosive plays. So I don't know, it just showed me another way they can handle their business. And it's like, this is the one team that is just blowing people away.
Right. If the closest thing we can find to a problem of their disjointed offense is like, well, they're only good at, other than you're not great except for the 8 25-yard plays. It's just like a crazy amount of explosivity.
There's no way to describe it without it sounding absurd, except I think you go watch it from wire to wire. Early on, it was a little rough.
I'm with you. What I mean by that is like even on days where you do some good things defensively, they're going to hit you for those explosives. And this matchup is just, it actually used to favor the Seahawks early in the Shanahan era before Brock Purdy showed up and even a little bit, I think, 3 years ago, but now it's one-way traffic. The 49ers have absolutely destroyed them 5 straight times the last 2 years.
Yeah, and the Seahawks are obviously going in the wrong direction. Seattle has lost 4 straight games for the first time in 14 years under Pete Carroll. They've lost 5-0 to the Niners, and DK Metcalf gets run in this game for a fight later in the game. He starts out.
You body slam someone.
Yeah, red hot with a touchdown that got him ahead early, and then again, like we're talking about in Kansas City, that frustration, especially you get into mid-December with some of these teams where things aren't going the way they were expecting, and it boils over, and you saw it with Metcalf.
Yeah, I think that's been part and parcel with the Metcalf experience. But I would imagine, like, Dan, if I body slammed you at our workplace, there'd be cameras somewhere to catch it. But on an NFL field,
great content for our podcast.
It would be NFL field, though. It's like you're not getting away
I'd
with
like
this.
to see that. I'd like to see the attempt even on that.
What, to
I don't know
body
if you
slam
finish
Dan?
it out. Yeah,
maybe maybe if he's high on speed or something. I don't know. Anything else from this game, Mark?
Not really. I will say there was this incredible Mitch Wisnowski. It wasn't set up to be a fake punt. I don't believe in terms of like the play call because it seemed to kind of surprise other Niners, but he just saw an open field. They were up 14-10 at the point in the third quarter, and he bolted for 30 yards, but it was taken away by a penalty. But I wish it had stayed. It would have been another big explosive play for them.
just for listeners that are,
It was a cool
fun.
play.
That's fun.
He
Cool play, dude.
he
I'm
did
glad you
it
added
on his own, though.
I'm glad we got it in the show.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was never going to be
Would
mentioned.
have been lost in
And
the sands of time.
Yes.
In the dustbin of history, it would have gone.
If you were someone like that, listen to our preview show and certainly the Thursday night recap. I mean, you might be like, why was Geno Smith not playing in this game?
Yeah, that
because
was snuck
he
up
was
on us.
completely healthy and he hurt his groin during practice. I want to find out what happened during practice there on Thursday, and did not play. And that obviously that could change their season a little bit if that turns into a long-term injury.
If Greg is surprised by something that happened in Geno Smith's groin, he's digging in. He's going to find out.
He's on the beat.
He'll find out. Great Purdy quote here, by the way. That shows both a level of awareness and also a reminder of what's going on here. This is from the AP write-up of the game. I'm part of a special group. Any one of our guys, any one of our eligibles, you get the ball in their hands, and then they do the rest.
Yeah, McCaffrey, 153 yards.
I didn't even mention Ayuk, 126.
He's an MVP candidate, McCaffrey, potentially.
They are an incredible team. It's just, let's see if they can.
Ayuk!
Yeah, like he's like the 5th guy you mentioned in this game, and he went for 126.
Well, their box
over
score is
1,000.
insane.
Yeah, every week. All right.
Fred Warner, too. It's just crazy.
All right,
They did suffer some injuries in the secondary, but we can discuss that.
Well, that
later.
could have been your last point.
Shavarius Ward went down.
Is this a redo of the last point? Should we take
We've
the
done
other
like
one
4
out of the
points
show?
since the last point.
Dre Greenlaw went down. That could be a tag on to my Shavarius
And actually,
Ward
you started your previous last point by saying no, but then you made that other point that we should.
I won't say a single other word, though. I'm done.
Anything else?
Nothing else.
Because once we leave, we can't come back.
Nothing else from me on this.
How about this? Let's go to Cleveland. How's that go, Marky? How you like that?
Intriguing. It was quite a day.
McManus playing with the football.
Little onside
and now
kick on
puts the football
action.
down
That's
on
fun.
the tee. Here we go for the onside kick. He dumps the ball to the right side. The Browns are on it. They got it. They got it on the right side. They recover the ball as getting it there over there is James Prochet. And the Browns can get into victory formation with 1:30 32, and what a long afternoon this has been.
Wait, this is our
What do
call?
you mean, never a doubt, Jim? This was smooth sailing the whole way here for the Cleveland Browns.
An onside kick recovery?
Yeah, that was how the game.
It's rare. You can change things up. It's good.
All right. Hey, flag that for me next time, Eric, all right?
I thought it was
It's a good call.
It talks about how it was a
An
long
onside
weekend.
kick recovery
It sealed the victory.
by the team that was being kicked to.
It sealed the victory, factually.
You had Dave Njoku scores 2 touchdowns in this game.
Well, we can get
you
into
got
that.
Joe Flacco playing out of his mind. He can't get the highlight. Browns 31-27 over the Jags. Come on, Marky. Get one of those guys. Sestog.
Yeah.
Flacco.
Not a fluko.
Not a fluko. Deserved the highlight. He's thrown for 565 and 5 touchdowns and 2 starts. Believeland.
It has
They
to be.
found hope in an unlikely place this holiday season.
It has to be one of the more improbable quarterback because of who it is, and because of what Joe Flacco did to the Browns for so long, and because of how he didn't get a call to work with any other team this entire year until everything burned down in Cleveland. And to assume that we'd get the guy that we even saw last time, who couldn't move, who seemed out of sorts, who was just like a shell of the former Joe Flacco, and I am saying that today, I'm watching him throw. I don't really remember a Browns quarterbacking performance in recent years like this at all. It's like they really just found this version of Joe Flacco that suddenly this was their most complete win. This was a weird game. It had 34 possessions. There were 50 passes in the first half. The Vikings game was we were a quarter into the Vikings game in the late window, and the Browns game was still going on. They got just enough from everyone, but you did get a star turn from David Njoku, and I know has been your guy. He was frustrating last week. He was frustrating last week, but today, honestly, I think he showed what he is when he's successful is a powerful steam engine who stiff armed someone and just rolled into the end zone on a huge touchdown.
He's very physically talented, that guy. He really is.
Their defense, which has been hot and cold, I think of late, that the Rams put it on them. But when they're at home, they're a different unit. And Trevor Lawrence, who looked pretty healthy to me, I was thinking, what version are we going to? He moved around. He ran a bunch. He was harassed from wire to wire until the very end when they did start to come back and move the ball a bunch. And that's why I do think, and I know I'm not going to get you to agree with this, but that I really, for some reason, thought another Browns team. Because their record to me doesn't quite match up with who they are. I can't really figure out how they're 8-5.
Riff-raff
That's the
right
thing,
now.
and it feels it's been up and down, but they really never really relented. And I see a secondary that plays with total confidence. They picked him off a bunch. They sacked him a bunch. It wasn't even the biggest game from Myles Garrett on the planet. They have a bunch of injuries. Grant Delpit, who they signed to an extension, got hurt. That feels very Brownsish. But they took care of business against a Jaguars team that should win their division.
How many possessions did he say were in this game?
34.
That's got to be
3 hours and 48 minutes of football.
So yeah, I went.
What?
It's crazy.
We can't be having that.
I went big on the whole Chiefs played well last week per possession offensively. They only got 7. Per possession, they were one of the best offenses of the week. This game, these two offenses played 2 complete games. Compared to that Packers-Chiefs game, for instance. They played 2 games worth of possessions to get to this number. So I guess that informs the Flacco numbers, but I don't care. Some of the stats are just crazy. He's the first Browns quarterback since Brian Sipe in 1980 to throw 3 touchdowns of over 30 yards in the same game.
Whoa.
That makes me feel special. You know how they always have that Browns T-shirt where it would be all the quarterbacks?
Yeah, jersey.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now they're gonna have to start a new jersey. It's Browns quarterbacks under Kevin Stefanski that have outplayed Deshaun Watson. I mean, it's getting long. We got Baker in 2020. We got Flacco this year. We got Jacoby Brissett for all of last year. Let's throw in the Case Keenum couple starts where he won. It's getting long. It's insane. That Stefanski keeps taking these guys and, at least for stretches, gets them playing at a very high level.
Yeah, I think he deserves some credit, and it should be no surprise. But, they announced that Flacco obviously would be the starter the rest of the way. They kept doing this thing with whoever was going to be their starter. Flacco spent last week on the practice squad. If I'm not, I believe I'm correct with this, the Jets could have come snatched Flacco off a practice squad and made him their starter. It just seemed like a bit of a hazardous
Well,
option.
they can pull him back, I believe.
At that point, they could have
Okay, does that concern me that would be a strategy that we'd employ at this point?
I think it was that happened with John Wolford earlier this season. I believe the Bucs decided to match it. But that is crazy that they aren't going to do the week-to-week thing anymore.
No, he is, and he's embedded now.
So it's tough luck for DTR, who actually was playing okay, and then he did lose it to injury.
DTR came in and had like a very critical like chain moving run where they had Flacco jog that out. So they're not expecting Flacco to run around the field too much. But he looked pretty good.
Any concerns here about the Jags, who now have given up 27 points or 31 points to Flacco, whatever they gave up last week to Jake Browning. They lucked out with the rest of the division results today, but this defense doesn't look as great.
I mean, they got in the last 6 days. They got beat by the Cincinnati backup, and then like the third quarterback on the depth chart or fourth for the Browns. So it's like, when they are not hosting playoff games or, they're in a perilous situation come January, it's because they stumbled at this portion of the schedules. And credit to Trevor Lawrence for, competing in this game. And from what I saw was moving well. And finally, the Evan Ingram connection is bearing fruit. He had 11 catches for 95 and 2 touchdowns in this game. But, Flacco gives them a little the Browns, instead of like being like, what a shame that they don't have any chance because they have these bad QBs and this defense that's being asked to do so much. Now the offense has a little life to it.
It's just a fun story.
If you could block for Flacco, he's shown at 38 years old he can move an offense.
They look different. This is one of the first complete games in a while.
Mark's back. I mean, he said we.
Well, I would say this. Like,
there's a we in there? I missed that.
You were there for the we. You said something about we.
I hate having to clarify this because then I get a bunch of tweets from people. It's like, why did you change your stance on the Browns? Like, I completely disagree with the Browns signing Deshaun Watson on any level. He's not in our lives right now. And from just watching football that's enjoyable or teams that are weird in a really strange season, like Flacco being the Browns quarterback, like at this point is one of the weirder sports stories of this year's NFL.
To be clear, I love it. You were enjoying this game as a fan, and that's great.
I was. Apparently, I picked the wrong. Like I didn't like what I enjoyed was not.
Do we have another highlight? Is there anything we could do? This is eating me up.
You know what?
Inside.
The call was pretty good because it talked about what a long day it was.
No, Greg.
It was a nice little summary.
That's why
Don't
I
dig
went
in
with
on
it
this.
too.
Also,
it's like he encapsulated because they almost blew that game, and he's like, there was a long day.
Because otherwise, you got to go back to like the early fourth or something.
Okay,
no, you're all wrong. I'm right.
Post-it note on the computer.
Joe
Flacco
is the Njoku on your fantasy team?
He's not. Okay. But I'm a big fan of David Njoku.
You could have gotten the David Bell touchdown in the fourth quarter.
You got to give Flacco the highlight.
Well, here's my thing. How about next week when he does it again?
Ooh, love it.
Spoken like a fan. I like it. Yeah. All right, let's take a break. I'm going to recover from that recovery, and we will roll on with our guest, Nick Shook. All right, welcome back. It's time now for the Sunday Drive presented by the first ever Toyota Highlander. And let's head to Cincinnati where the Bengals said, we are relevant.
Second down and goal, inches away. The Bengals already up by 7. Now Browning moves under center. He has Mixon 5 yards behind him. Browning will try to sneak it in. Mixon shoves him in the back into the end zone. Touchdown, Bengals. And Cincinnati has a 2 TD lead.
Dan Horde, WCKY with the call. Jake Browning has that dog existing within him. The 27-year-old played like a star for the second time in 6 days, throwing 2 touchdown passes, rushing for another score, and the Bengals beat up on the Colts 34-14. Let's now welcome in a man who could beat up on a lot of people if he chose to, but he's not a man of violence. He doesn't throw hands, Mark, but he will if he must.
If he needed to, but he doesn't. It's not out of pocket that he just goes do that left and right.
That's a special kind of power. I won't beat you, but just know that I can. Nick Shook, the pipe. Welcome aboard, buddy.
With great power comes great responsibility, and I exercise plenty of responsibility in conflict situations.
Absolutely. What's going on in those Cleveland, those clubs and bars? I'm sure sometimes they see a guy like Shook, 6'8", 275, carved out of the side of a mountain, and they say, I'm gonna show what a man I am.
Yeah, that whole.
I'm going to use him to lift myself up. That has ever happened to you?
6'8", 275 reads like an overblown college bio. Let's do 6'4", 6'3", and flirting with 6'4", 230, 235. Let's go with that.
You know, I'm very concerned of late about like child gangs, which is a prevalent
It's on
thing.
your radar, yeah.
I like shook just he could take out an entire child gang, and they deserve it if they came into our
he
midst.
could beat on a child if he had to.
Is this like child gangs, like pickpockets? Like you worried about, a group of cockney pickpockets coming in?
No, it's like the violence ranges and what their quest is ranges, but they're criminal in nature.
All right, let's get to it. Browning again, looking good, huh?
Yeah, real good. That was not a fluke on Monday night. Much to we all thought it was probably going to be a fluke, and then he comes out and executes the offense efficiently once again. Zach Taylor doing a great job coaching it up. A nice little mix of screens. The running game's going. Everything's balanced out and allowing Jake Browning to just do what he's asked to do. And then he mixed in the big plays, started the second half with a few deep passes. He had a beauty down the sideline to T. Higgins. Everything was just cooking on this offensive side of the ball for the Bengals, who, this is a team that we thought they were headed toward a dark winter once they lost Joe Burrow. And now suddenly they got legitimate belief and hope that they just might make the playoffs, to the point where you might not even want to be somebody who faces them, because they still have a championship roster outside of quarterback, and their quarterback's doing his job quite well. The win over the Colts today, like, this is a Colts team that we know has probably overachieved to get to this point, considering they have had Gardner Minshew at quarterback, for most of the season. But the win today felt emphatic for the Bengals in the fact that they blew a 14-0 lead rather quickly just before the half. And instead of, accepting that, hey, we have a backup quarterback here, they came out firing. And before you knew it, it's 28-14 Bengals in the lead, and then eventually in control of a game that they just look like the better team.
I think one of the great things is, like, they didn't have to go change their offense to tailor it around, Browning's like limitations. It's like, this looks like a Joe Burrow offense, and it's like there's a lot of stuff happening. I'm not calling him Joe Burrow on any level, but like, you're the QB index guy. Like, where would you put him right now? Like, what do you do with someone like that?
Well, we're faced with a little bit of a battle of Ohio right now between backup quarterbacks, because Joe Flacco and Jake Browning are both playing relatively out of their minds, considering what we expect of backup quarterbacks. Now, Flacco, being a former starter, probably has a higher level of expectation, but he is 38 years old. So Browning and Flacco are both at the top of the backups group, and they're actually outperforming some starters in the league right now, and a handful of those guys. It's going to be an interesting week for QB Index. A lot of movement, a lot of performances that we probably didn't expect. But I'm excited to kind of dig in on that. And Browning, you don't want to put too much stock in a win on the road over the Jaguars on prime time. But now that we've seen him do it a couple times in a row, now you got to take him seriously from here on out. This is not just a one-game fly-by-night type of thing. And now I'm really intrigued to see if he can do this for the last 4 weeks of the season. Are the Bengals going to get in the playoffs? Is Jake Browning going to be the guy? It's worth watching.
They're one of the 6, 7, and 6 teams right now, and now they have a tiebreaker over the Colts. They have a tiebreaker over the Bills. It really is a credit to Zach Taylor and that staff. And the fact that when the game got tight again, and we saw it against the Jaguars as well, like, they trust Browning. And like what you're saying, they were attacking with a backup quarterback, where you see coaches all the time when they have a quarterback they don't trust, or a backup quarterback, they throw out half the playbook and you end up with a very stilted offense. But apparently that's not the case here.
No, 275 passing yards on 18 completions. He only had to throw the ball 24 times, and yet it felt like they really controlled this game. He's just completely in rhythm. He looks comfortable. And I don't know if this is a microcosm of the way Zach Taylor coaches his offenses, because what he looked like to me, even going back a few weeks ago when they played Pittsburgh and right after the Ravens lost, when they played Pittsburgh, I thought, man, he looks a lot like Joe Burrow did way back in week 2 of Burrow's rookie season when they played in Cleveland in prime time. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, this kid's got no experience yet. He looks really calm and confident. That's kind of what Browning does. Obviously, he doesn't have the same physical tools that Joe Burrow does. But, it's a beautiful partnership between coach and quarterback right now. And Browning is just playing as somebody who knows he doesn't have to be the hero, probably isn't capable of being the hero, and is totally fine with that. He's just going to take what is given, or what is asked of him, and it's working really well right now.
They're also getting contributions in a way they just weren't with Burrow for the most part. They run for over 100 yards. Chase Brown literally wasn't on the field ever with Burrow, and he has his second straight big game. He goes for over 100 yards from scrimmage. And then their defense, which has been a sieve for most of the season, has its best day of the year in terms of yards allowed. They only give up 14 points. They get involved in turnovers too. So it does feel like Higgins has a couple downfield plays, as you mentioned. Like, it does feel like the rest of the team is showing a little bit more of what we expected coming into the year around their quarterback, and that does make them dangerous. Although these two teams, I feel like I don't know. I feel like they might be on. If I had to guess, that they'd both be on the outside looking in once we get to.
Yeah,
game.
agreed.
But we'll see.
Agreed.
Cincinnati winless in their division still. That's really hurt them. So they're in a bad tiebreaker spot. So they got to keep winning. Anything about the Colts that you wanted to throw in there?
Too many mistakes. Too many penalties. They had a season high in penalties with 9 today, accepted for 66 yards. A bad interception. Gardner Minshew just under pressure a lot throughout the day. Bernard Ryman, the left tackle, got dominated by Trey Hendrickson. The matchup numbers are bad when it comes to pressures. I don't even want to read them. They're that bad. It's a team that I think they've already hit their ceiling, and if they can continue to play at that level, they'll make it interesting through the rest of the year. But games like today are going to happen because, again, you do not have your star future franchise quarterback on the field right now. And there's only so much you can do when your running game's not going and you're trying to dig yourself out of a hole.
All right. Let's stay with Nick Shook and head to the desert for a game featuring two teams that will not be in the desert on Super Bowl Sunday.
3-0 Minnesota with 1:57 to go.
How dare you? Let's keep it real.
Over the middle. Intercepted!
Oh!
At the 34-yard line. And the Las Vegas Raiders have gone bust in a game against the Minnesota Vikings. Thanks to Ivan Pace Jr. And Ivan, with his first National Football League interception, has knocked out the Raiders, and the Minnesota Vikings are going to win 3-0.
Oh, yes. The Minnesota Vikings. You just don't even try to score on them because they're not going to give you anything.
Can't do it.
And all they needed was a field goal. So they said, we're not going to get crazy. We're the team of ATN. We're not going to overexert. We'll just kick a field goal in the final minute and 2 minutes, and we'll win 3-0. And that's what they did, beating the Raiders to improve to 7-6. And it is, here's some data points. Let's give Dick Banks support.
This is a very special honor.
So, yeah, there's reasons to be nervous about the Vikings as the team of ATN, Shooky, because they're trending downward. Josh Dobbs, after his Monday night nightmare against the Bears, comes back off a bye and is so abysmal that they pull him for Nick Mullins in this game, who's the quarterback when they went on the field goal drive. Justin Jefferson finally comes back and then ends up in the hospital during this game with a chest injury. So that certainly is concerning. But in the end, they did find a way despite just 230 total yards and those measly 3 points.
Yeah, there was more juice in that theme song than there was in this game for either team. It was a tough watch. If you're a fan of defense, you might say, well, this is a great game, but it was more a product of bad offense than good defense. Now, the Raiders got after Josh Dobbs a ton. Josh Dobbs didn't help himself with the way that he sensed pressure and kind of panicked. I totally understood why Kevin O'Connell went to Nick Mullins late. I was a little surprised just because it was desperate. But again, it was a 0-0 game in the last 6 minutes of the game. And you give credit to Nick Mullins because he converted a few third downs that Josh Dobbs probably wouldn't have converted. And that got them in field goal range to put the only points of the game on the board. But the problem is like, if this is the team of ATN, right? Like you just said, they're trending downward. Like I love the way that their defense has played in parts, but my God, guys, they got a bad situation at quarterback. They're going to go into the next week. We're going to have to hear about it all week. Nick Mullins, Jaron Hall, Josh Dobbs, all of them are not great options, and it's a bummer to see the character arc of 2023 for Josh Dobbs come to a crashing end. But we were trending this way for the last couple of weeks. It needed to be made. And I think if they're playing anybody other than the Raiders or the Patriots, they probably lose this game.
All right, let's calm down here because, first of all, the Raiders have played a lot with Aiden O'Connell. This is easily the best defensive performance anyone's had him. Their defense is very good. Like, it's been a top 10 defense. Second of all, they lose Justin Jefferson.
All right, Greg, keep going. I like this.
They lose Justin Jefferson to a chest injury right away. He had 2 catches early in this game. Both of those 2 plays were high-level plays by Josh Dobbs. It's funny how quarterbacks look better when they have an exceptional wide receiver. They lose their right tackle. I think a team captain, Brian O'Neill, a Pro Bowl caliber guy. They lose a starting guard, Dalton Reisner, during the game. And they find a way to win with Nick Mullins, the old Mulldog, throwing some lollipops over to the sideline, but in between zone coverage, there were some pretty clutch throws, and they get out of there for a victory, and maybe Jefferson's injury is not that serious.
What did you call the throw?
Some lollipops?
No, we call it feathered.
Okay,
We say
feathered.
feathered.
I don't know.
Mark
They were just like
Sanchez feathered it in there.
You could see why Nick Mullins has had the career he's had because he came in, he made great decisions. The game wasn't too big for him. But you could also see the reason why he's had the career he's had because just the ball was just taking forever to get
Greg,
there.
So you could use.
And then you move on to next week. You get Jefferson back, and you win, beat some bad teams.
He's in the hospital, Greg. Slow down.
It's not guaranteed.
They said they don't think it's significant. He's on the plane coming.
I think it's
great.
fair to say, like, depending on eye of the beholder, that Nick is right. There is a trending down scenario today when your quarterback gets benched. Is a slight disaster. Was a disaster last week. We'll see what happens with the wide receiver. You've lost a bunch of offensive linemen. It's like
Madison got hurt, by the way, in this game too. After running well, so
and you just scored 3 points in an NFL game. So and somehow won. So arrow up to the defense.
I know you don't like to root for the team of ATL. I'm just saying this is part of the package. Some craziness.
I do like to root for them. I don't need to manufacture it out of thin air. I'm going to wait and see mode with this team.
How about this? If that doesn't do it for you, how about a double lock?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's why. That's why.
Rosie and Zuzer combo.
Oh.
2-0.
This is the soundtrack to my nightmares.
Yeah, don't even ask.
At first, I didn't like this whole thing that you were jumping on with the locks,
Right.
but I got to say, you're doing a good job as an offensive coordinator.
There's more juice here than the Vikings now. And
some good
here's
team
the thing.
spirit.
Here's my spin on Team of ATN because this is an emergency meeting because they did win, but the juice is out of the bottle. So now we're at a low point, and we see if they can somehow rediscover the magic. But we kind of picked them based on Dobbs being a funky guy to bring in, their tenacity on defense, Justin Jefferson's eventual return, and all that stuff, except for the defense has disappeared. I guess the lesson maybe, Mark, is because the Lions was such a natural pick last year, and we got to go on the whole ride with them, but even that started out poorly. Jumping on a team in the middle of the season is a big risk because the NFL season, despite being only 17 games long, has so many peaks and valleys. Beware of joining a team during a peak. Maybe there's another peak to come, but right now we're kind of in a valley, even though they won.
They're not out of it on any level, obviously.
They're 2-2 with us, by the way, as the team of ATL.
I think the record speaks for itself. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Josh Metellus with the big forced fumble. We've talked about him all year. He got an NFL plus thing. That was the biggest play in the game because that was the only time either team was in the red zone. And then Ivan Pace, Nick, an undrafted rookie who's been easily the best rookie linebacker in the NFL. I would put him maybe top 5 or 6 defensive rookie of the year, period. One of our guy Spice Rack's favorite players, 13 tackles, a sack, and then the game-winning pick. So they're getting good production from these random guys that we didn't know much about going into the season.
Yeah, I was going to give a little shout out to Metellus. He's been my favorite guy to watch in this defense all year. It's a group that you looked at them on paper coming into the season. You're like, I just don't see it on the defensive side of the ball. A lot of people are playing better than we anticipated them. Ivan Pace being one of them. DJ Wanham's been a guy that has shown up in a number of games this year that I've really enjoyed watching him play. So I totally give them credit on the defensive side of the ball. And they got after Aiden O'Connell. They shut that offense down. It's just that, like we just discussed, I don't know, man. It feels like paper clips and chewing gum. And last month is a separation season. I just don't know with the quarterback situation how it's going to go. But a good win for them. And then if we do pivot to the Raiders, part of the reason that Brian O'Neill ended up leaving with an injury is because he was getting ran over by Max Crosby all game.
He was awesome today.
That Raiders defense was stifling throughout the afternoon until the fourth quarter. It's almost like he just asked them to do too much since the offense was doing nothing. I feel bad for them. Yeah, I know. But because in that situation, they had to get a stop. They couldn't get a stop. Here's the big question with the Raiders that I present to you guys now is, look, you have a month left. You already declared Aiden O'Connell as your best quarterback, your best option. But yet we know that, he's had some moments, but he's probably not your long-term answer. You have an interim head coach. How do you proceed through this last month? You're 5-7. What is there left to figure out when everybody could be gone?
5-8. You're just playing out the string. There's not much to it.
Yeah, you get a nice little window
I'm
here.
trying
for
to add
O'Connell.
intrigue here.
I think
there is no intrigue.
need to force it.
You just take a deeper look at Antonio Pierce, who has a
supposedly
chance to be a head coach there.
Supposedly there was a 25-minute meeting after the game that held up Antonio Pierce's press conference because Mark Davis was talking to Pierce, and the odds, he was facing an extreme uphill battle to keep that job, and I guess that's the only intrigue is if they could keep this going and win a few more games, but that's it.
Yeah.
Jackpot, baby!
All right, Shooky, you said it all. Thanks, bud.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you didn't answer the question. I had one question.
Oh, yeah.
Have guys picked fights with you to try to prove that they're men for their buddies or for girls or whatever? Has it happened?
Yeah, yes, until I stand up from the table they approach me at, then they kind of back.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. That's the pipe,
That's
baby.
true story.
You got my back, I got yours, buddy. All right. Thanks, Nick.
All right, guys. Thanks.
That's odd though, because like Nick's sitting down like at a booth with 5 other people. It still look big, but like you wouldn't go pick him out of the like. That's not how you it'd be the guy walking around. It seems like.
Are you poking a hole in the story?
I have additional questions.
He literally
next time
said,
we speak with him.
Stick a pin in that.
I will.
And we're gonna ask him more.
Okay.
Next week.
Will do.
Eric, remind us that, okay? Because by the time next Sunday at this
Next
time
week.
comes, it will literally feel like this conversation was 7 years ago. To the soggy Meadowlands we go, where magic was in the air.
Shotgun for Zach Wilson. Hall to his left. There goes Gibson in motion. Wilson takes the snap, drops back, looks left, throws left, caught from left pylon into the end zone. That's a Jet touchdown. Breece Hall walks in, and the Jets answer and stretch the score to 2 leads again. Hit it.
Oh,
New York City.
I didn't think we'd hear the song again this year. Bob was choosing with the call. Jets radio. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes, Zach Wilson has returned. The much beleaguered quarterback threw for 2 second-half touchdowns. He went over 300 yards passing in his return from a bizarre 2-game benching, and the Jets beat down a Texans team that played like, one of those dome teams that don't want anything to do with a rainy December afternoon in the Northeast. That's what the Texans looked like in this game. 30-6 was the final. And it was the tale of 2 games because, boys, this one played out exactly like the game we just talked about for the first 2 quarters. The Jets and Texans combined for 11 punts in a scoreless first half before New York erupts for 3 touchdowns and 3 field goals in the final 2 quarters. They scored 30 points in the second half, the Jets. So
Crazy.
Interesting Zach Wilson game because you see he made plays in this second half that you understand on some level why the Jets have been reticent to let go because they think there's one day someone unlocked in there. Now, me and Connor Orr wrote something that I agreed with over on SI today. I think it more points out just how inconsistent Wilson is as a quarterback, and that's never going to change, or at least not with the Jets. Maybe if you get him with a legitimate play caller elsewhere, he can develop in a different way. But this guy, and this was his 3rd game of 300 more yards, he has amazing tools, and some of the moves he made with his feet, finding little open spaces and then slinging the ball, no-look passes. It was like the best version of Zach Wilson, and for a Jet team that had went into a very dark place, it was nice. It was a nice Sunday at the Meadowlands.
It's kind of like also they kept cutting up to the booth where Nathaniel Hackett in the first half when things were bad. Like I thought I saw a crack in the armor of like just a bit of concern and worry.
Deflated almost.
Yeah, just like, he knows that we're staring him on camera and things are going terribly. Just from like a human side, because I feel like Zach Wilson obviously has been yanked around so much. I love seeing it just for him because no matter what, if his career isn't in New York, and this is a good thing for him to find out what they want to do with him at quarterback going forward. I think they can't maybe make the same mistake. It's just a personal, he can walk around New York City this week and not feel like he's letting the entire metropolis down. And I like that. But CJ Stroud going out was to me the biggest story of this game.
Yeah. The Texans, it was a total loss. It was all bad. And the game was already well decided when Stroud gets hurt. He was knocked out of the game with a concussion. It was a pretty bad hit where he slammed the back of his helmet on the turf on a Quinnen Williams hit. Nico Collins, who we were just talking up as this guy that like nobody's paying attention, but he has almost 1,000 yards receiving. He lasted 1 possession before leaving with a calf injury. Linebacker Blake Cashman went out. Taveri Thomas, Will Anderson, their first-round pick, also goes out in this game. I'm not sure the severity of his injury. So you had all these injury issues and an offense that was just
5 starters.
Yeah, in the midway through the 3rd quarter, before they had their one scoring drive, they had negative 11 passing yards that deep into the game, and it was the type of performance from the Texans that and I know you're high on them, Mark, and I think when they have everybody on the same field,
when they're healthy,
they can be dangerous, but I did not like, even before Stroud went out, just the vibe of the team did not feel like a team that's ready to play crucible games in December and January. Could be just a bad day at the office, but they were badly outplayed by a team that was like in tatters going into this game.
Well, they're down their top 3 wide receivers, which now with Collins gone, and including receivers in general because Schultz is gone. So that's you have a rookie quarterback down 3 receivers, and then you lose 3 of your key defensive pieces too. Cashman and Thomas have been vital to them. Their offense really hasn't been hitting since that Bengals game. That was kind of the high point of their season. I know they won the following week by the Cardinals, but they've had inconsistencies in each of the last 3 games against the Cards, Jags, and Broncos. Their schedule stays favorable, but this was a major come-down-to-earth game. They had a missed opportunity with Jacksonville, who lost that game against the Browns, and they just need to get healthy. They need Stroud out there next week. And it is a reminder, it's a long season. They've been right around, to me, a 500 team, but just with a little more excitement the rest, this season. Like they're +8 now in terms of point differential for the season. I would caution, though, because I saw some Texans Twitter stuff. It's like, is the season over? All this stuff. All these 7-6 teams, every time you lose, the season's not over. The odds are, of all those 7-6 teams, a total of 0 will go 4-0. I mean, that's an overwhelming odds that none of them will run the table. Because you think of the first 4 weeks of the season, how many 4-0 teams did we have? Only great teams win 4 straight games. So if you're 7-6, you probably have 1 game to play with. If you finish 10-7, you're more than likely, not definitely because of tiebreakers, but more than likely in the AFC. I think if you finish 10-7, you're probably going to make the playoffs. And if you finish 9-8, you're probably not going to make the playoffs.
So you're engaging with Texans fans who are like concerned about their mathematical chances when the entire AFC is within
I think it's more the way they lost.
Maybe we don't
the way
need to engage with them.
Well, I'm not engaging at all.
It seems absurd to me.
But it's the reporters too. I see. Like, imagine if you were a Browns fan, you come into this game 7-5, you lose 30-6 to the Jets, and your quarterback goes out with a concussion and 4 other starters. You're feeling like it's all over.
All that stuff feels real to me.
Yeah,
like the fact that you're probably going to get an AFC team that wins 9 games and sneaks into the wild card, and they're sitting at they have 7.
Yeah,
they play the Titans twice, and who knows where the Colts will be at that point.
Long way to go.
Last point on because circling back to Hackett. In the second half, when things started going the other way, and he called a good game. I have to say, for the first time, it was like, okay, there was some misdirection, some trickeration. He was actually having a nice day for once. And they showed him having like a release and a celebration. It was like, oh, that's good. Because we knew from Hard Knocks he's a good guy.
Right.
He's just in over his head. And one point about Wilson playing in front of an offensive line that, again, by the way, was terrible. Mekhi Becton had the worst game I've ever seen him have today. He was making these plays. At one point, he was 17 of 18 in the second half. So, he played really well and did show something. He's a curiosity. He remains. I don't want him to be my quarterback ever again after these last 4 games. But you know what? It's fun to see him when things are going well and just cutting loose. All right, let us move on.
Hold on, Dan.
Yes.
1 second.
Yes.
You wanted me to pull something from the Thursday preview show.
Thank you.
So I did not want to let you get past.
Thank you, because this can't go. This can't go without mentioning that someone did lock this game up, and it was one Nick Wessling who was having a grand old chuckle during his prediction. Let's revisit that.
I mean, are you kidding me? This team's an absolute show. How can they even be considered an NFL franchise right now? This is a joke. How they're only 3.5-point favorites is beyond me. The Texans are going to roll by 30. This isn't even funny. I don't even know why I'm laughing. It's a disgrace. Good luck, Jets. Better luck next year. Bye.
Who's the disgrace now?
Oh, boy.
Wessling.
I don't think Nick is wearing pants in that video.
All right. Let's move on. Where are we going next? Let's go to Soldier Field. Listen, he's a showman, and
that was
a great message. Just it wasn't accurate.
He put himself on the line, and it didn't work out for him.
Lions showing blitz. Lions have their safeties back deep. Awaiting the snap, Justin Fields. Movement off the left side. Free play for Justin. Works it down the left side. He's got DJ
Bang!
loping into the end zone for the touchdown.
Touchdown Bears, and they're back in front. 38-yard strike. DJ Moore, the catch. Wow.
My goodness. Man. Who did we give bongos to? It was deserving.
Rams, Ravens.
But I got to say, the Bears
Vikings
are...
would have been a fun bongos.
The Bears...
I did have that thought for a second.
So many choices. The Bears could have gotten the bongos because the Bears played a really good game on Sunday, really giving it to the Lions, the rival. 28-13 win. Justin Fields threw for a touchdown, ran for another. And that play, I chose that one because it was a 4th and long and the just no hesitation. Justin Fields drop back. He sees DJ Moore in one-on-one coverage. He just drills it. And they say, we have this ability. So Matt Eberflus, the head coach, all of a sudden they've won 3 of 4. And he got his first division win last week, Eberflus, which is insane. Now he has his first back-to-back wins as head coach of the Bears. So they're stacking some things here now. And it was just nice to see the Bears showing some life. And Mark, I think I kind of threw this out there a couple days ago. Could Justin Fields get the Bears thinking with a strong finish? And I thought he played better than even his box score in this, leading this offense on an impressive show.
Yeah, I think for these teams that, they're out of it to some degree, but a lot still matters. And Eberflus 2 weeks ago to me felt like, will he finish the season with his team? Probably because the GM and him are very linked, but it's important for us to see what the vision of Matt Eberflus is. And that, beyond even Justin Fields, this was a defense, a roster that gave away defensive talent a year ago, burned it down a little bit to the ground, had no pass rush coming into the year. The Montez Sweat acquisition, I think, has absolutely turned a key on this defense, but they've been a legit, really
4
good
QB
defense
hits today.
Right, he's been great, and they had 4 sacks, I believe, and they made life really difficult for Jared Goff. And I think the other side of this is concern around the Lions continues to grow and bubble.
Yeah, I just don't like the energy around this team right now. I think Lions fans that are freaking out, I'm sure there are some out there. I think there's reason to be concerned because there's just some things that we are not seeing. Aiden Hutchinson finally kind of got it going again in this game, so that was positive. But the slow starts, Detroit, they've been trailing at the end of the first quarter now in 3 of their last 4 games. And when this team is playing from behind, they just look and act different. And Goff is put in more uncomfortable situations, and they can't play defense, Greg, and especially against mobile quarterbacks who just run around this unit.
Every quarterback has their best game in a while against this team, and it's concerning. This is a division matchup, and so they know each other a little better than other teams, but it's the Bears. These two teams have played twice. I watched every second of that game live last time, and the Bears were the better team.
Could have swept them
for 55 minutes. And it wasn't fluky. I know Goff had a couple of interceptions in that game, but they were also winning the line of scrimmage. They were moving the ball. They were the better team. The Bears have looked pretty reasonable, I would say, for 7-8 weeks now. I mean, they had a backup quarterback playing, but the team around Bajan, and now since Fields come back, they're a dangerous team. They're a team I wouldn't want to face down the stretch. And the Lions, you're right. Their offense is great, but they also only have 2 to 3 pieces. And if Goff falls behind and starts getting under pressure, it's not the best offense in the league that you can have this level of defense around it. It's concerning.
Yeah, and Jahmyr Gibbs also, once again, maybe getting him more and more involved with the offense will help because he gets the ball in his hands, and he was excellent again in this game. But overall, just not enough.
The Packers, by the way, who play Monday night, are very much in this division race now.
Oh, for sure.
Down 2 if they can win that game with 4 to play. It is not over. And we mentioned Eberflus. If they finish strong, you could see this Bears organization over the years has been not wanting to pay their coaches to go away. It's just kind of not been their MO. Their ownership isn't too involved. So I think he has a chance if they keep playing well to save his job.
They've won 5 of 9 now. They're trending.
Right.
If they can finish with a sense of dignity and some success, I think he will get another year, which maybe is not the right move. But if they're showing progress, and then the next question will be, Greg, to circle back to the Fields thing.
Sure.
You have DJ Moore now, and that's now a legitimate thing. you have Marvin Harrison's son out there as the next big thing coming out of college. The idea of, well, we could draft a new quarterback, or we could give him a potential superstar to pair with Moore and really start building.
And you have a ton of
tempting, I would
cap room.
imagine.
I mean, it's
or
kind
we
of like
trade
year
down
2 of all that.
Right. Or we trade down to like whoever has the 2 or the 3 pick. Get Harrison, get more
Right.
picks. It all could be exciting. And I'm not sure keeping Eberflus would be the right decision. I'm leaning no. But I kind of like more Eberflus in our life. It's like the last 6 or 7 weeks, I've realized he's an extremely goofy person in press conference that I feel like if he was on coaching a different team, people would be like, what is with this guy? And he gave a little example.
Oh, all right.
Just
Good.
a little example. He's just weird.
Now, Jaquan had 17 tackles today. Jaquan.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
What did you think of the way he was playing?
Sounds like my college stats
Ooh.
You go in Ball State over there, I got you.
Well, he's winning. He's feeling good.
But it's just even just the awkwardness is like, hey, over there, I got you. It's just something
Safety,
goofy
Jaquan
about it. I
Brisker
like it.
had 17 tackles. A safety with 17 tackles. See, like linebackers with 17 tackles. I like that, though. That's one of those like sneaky flexes where I'm showing I have a sense of humor. I'm showing that I'm loose and easy, and I'm also showing you that I was a great player once upon a time.
I bet,
I'm an
some of
athlete.
his pillow talk at home is like, honey, you've got to like kind of show them who you are. Show them the person that I know.
We want the real Matt to come out.
Yeah.
Like, I recognize him now when I see him. Like, I think there's
that's
progress.
That's a turning point.
Team of ATM? Can we jump?
Switch,
Pivot?
Who would blame us?
Who could? I mean, who says we can't?
Who locked this game?
Whose choice is it other than?
Who locked it?
Oh, I did.
Oh, Marky. Oh,
That's okay.
Cess dog.
That's okay. Maybe I'll, join ship with some other person winning 12 games a week.
You want it? You want to join us?
No, I'll examine it. But like,
this
this was a dumb lock because it's like, why do I keep picking these teams on the road that are trending downward when I'm picking them?
You know, Greg, the only thing that would actually end the lock competition is if we all just joined on the same lock. That would be the only way.
I'm considering it. I am
week.
heavily considering it. I'll take it to the committee, my own committee.
I think my second team in the standings is now tied you. So
Well, yeah, you have multiple franchises to sort out, so I can't.
I'm like Mickey Loomis. I'm the Mickey Loomis of the locks competition. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we will finish up. Yeah, right. Welcome back. It is time to dive into the mysterious and terrifying and grisly world of the NFC South. Mask up, everybody. Mask up. Like the outbreak gear, the full bodysuit with the pull on, and then there's like the window.
We're back there.
Yeah, we're back there. Let's go.
From the 11-yard line. Good snap, Mayfield.
You can go back.
Throws a ball left. There's a caught ball, touchdown. Tampa Bay. Cade Otton makes it over the shoulder catch, and the Bucs retake the lead.
Yeah, they have one-on-one coverage, and you could tell by the body language of Mayfield, he was going to Otton the whole way.
Before
He gets
the
number
pass is
20.
thrown, holding defense number 27.
Decline it.
Touchdown.
Listen, Roberts, he's a stickler for rules, and he wanted to make sure we had the holding call and announcement in there. Thank you.
A completionist. I like that.
Completionist. Cade Otton. Oh, that was Gene Deckerhoff with the call. Cade Otton. Pretty good tight end. Good little tight end. No Njoku. He should have been in the
some
show
weeks
today.
he is.
Dave should have been in the show today.
You know what? We'll do
Can
an
we
entire.
get an Njoku
let's
highlight by the end of the show?
just do an entire episode on his highlights from today.
Cade Otton hauled in an 11-yard touchdown pass with 31 seconds to play. It was a wild fourth quarter, and it allowed the Bucs to move into a tie for first place in the stinkiest blue cheese NFC South, 29-25 over the Falcons. Greg, are we completely certain that the season will end with an NFC South champion? And if so, do you think it is the Bucs who find a way? They did on Sunday.
I think you're selling the Bucs short. They're not tied for the first place. They
How
are
short?
the first place team. The Bucs are back.
Excuse me.
This game was drafted by yours truly for just the scenario that happened, that the Bucs had the ball late in the game, and I was thinking, this is the Bucs season. If they do not score a touchdown on this drive, which they received, I believe, with 3 minutes and 20 seconds left, their season's over. They're down 2. They won't have the tiebreaker. 4 to go. Bye-bye, Bucks. It's gone. And Baker Mayfield, who was terrible today, 14 for 29, missed like 7 throws.
Yeah, but he's got moxie.
Ran into like 4 sacks, pressure that wasn't there for most of the day. Had his best 2 throws of the game when he absolutely needed to, which has been, I think, typical of him late this season. Is
he's in the perfect division for him, for who he is.
Right.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He's come up with his best work late in the game. And 3rd and 10, it was 1:16 to go. They had been forcing throws to Godwin the whole time. 10 targets for, at that point, like 20 yards. And Baker had a dime. He finally wins this matchup against Clark Phillips. They were trying to pick on this rookie safety the whole game, and the rookie safety was winning. And it was a beautiful throw and catch. And then the next play, or 2 plays later, is to Otten for the touchdown. And that was enough to just get out of here in a game that Desmond Ridder and the Falcons just kept finding ways to let the Buccaneers stay around, even though the Falcons really outplayed them.
I'm issuing a correction to your correction.
What?
There's a 3-way tie atop the NFC South.
I get it, but the first the answer.
No,
who is in
tiebreaker stuff.
first
It's
place?
not the end of the year yet.
Who is in first place in the NFC South?
There are 3 teams that are 6 and 7.
But who is in
the
first
middle
place?
of December? That's all that matters.
Who's in first place?
Don't worry about anything
You're
else.
not worried
Tampa Bay
about
Bucks.
the tiebreakers and all that business.
We'll
right
get
now.
to that. There's
Yeah.
plenty of time for that to decide it. But right now, this is the NFC South, Mark. 6 and 7, 6 and 7, 6 and 7, 1 and 12. Have some fun.
I know I'm rooting at this point. Like, you got to flip it around if you're looking for something that's intriguing. Like, there's a chance we could get a 7-win team winning this division, and we've had 7 and 9. You've never had 7 and 10, so that would be intriguing. I mean, if I said to you back in August, I believe that Baker Mayfield will be the best quarterback in this division by like mid-December, and I'm not saying he is
Bryce Young, Carr,
Ridder,
Baker.
This year's version of Carr. I'm just saying it's that much of a car wreck in the division.
Yeah, when I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
That it does apply.
You know, we tried. Who was it? Who's the reporter? Tried to get Baker at the end of the interview to say he was feeling dangerous. Queued him up on it and everything, and he's like, "Nah, I wasn't feeling dangerous when I woke up," and he walked away. Pretty good. Who was the reporter? I think
That's
it's somebody
amazing.
we know.
Uh,
Who did that game? Go ahead. Go on. I'll figure this out.
I think they had something like 80-something yards on their first 8 or 9 drives. Like the Bucks defense was giving up play. Like this was the ultimate Desmond Ridder game, who's gotten better at football. He threw for 347 in this game. He threw for a touchdown, ran for another. But like he just finds a way to make the biggest mistakes possible in the most crucial moments. He missed a wide open Bijan Robinson for a touchdown early. He threw an interception on like a swing pass that was a great read by Carlton Davis, but still it set the Bucks up at the 8. Their offense was not going to do anything today, but that set them up for their only touchdown early in the game. He had 2 fumbles. He took a brutal safety in the game where he held the ball too long. So it's like, yeah, you can be great the other 45 plays. And it was driving me crazy. Arthur Smith just refused to run the ball. At one point, and this is when the game is close, they had 31 dropbacks for Ridder and 11 carries for the running back.
Come
So I was like, what is
We're
happening?
back in that world.
Yeah, Bijan Robinson. By the way, Younghoe Koo, who's great. He's nails. But he missed 2 field goals in this game, which cost them the game in a way, but also, well, and they're 50 and 52 out. But for him, that's usually money in the bank. That also gives Justin Tucker back, I believe, the all-time leading kick percentage for active players.
Nice work.
So I'm happy about that. But I like Younghoe Koo, so bummer to him.
Good player, just not a great day.
I think my 2 all-pro safeties were in this game, and they were both making monster plays. Bates ended like 3 drives, and Winfield is the one that had that forced fumble.
I mean, I think we agreed.
Which could have been a
Bates-
touchdown. It turned into a safety because it bounced, and the Falcons got it.
We agreed Bates was clearly the best free agent pickup of the offseason.
He's been great.
Great maneuver. Without even thinking, who wins the NFC South? Mark.
Bucks.
Greg.
I'm going to go Falcons.
Me. Bucks. So it's decided.
Nobody. It just says a lot about the Saints that they get no votes in this scenario.
All right, let's stay in the NFC South where the Panthers and Saints did battle.
Saints moving towards
That feels like a stretch.
Poitras and the field level sweeps. Rolls to his right, this Carr throws to the end zone. Touchdown!
What's Derek Carr playing in this game for?
Jimmy Graham! Touchdown! Oh, he thought he might dunk it, but he didn't.
Jimmy don't want that fine.
4-yard
doesn't have
touchdown
those
for
hops
Jimmy
anymore.
Graham.
He's not allowed either. After he ruined the goalpost at one time, remember? In his heyday. Mike Haas and
My
Deuce McAllister with the call. Derek Carr, who apparently is unkillable, returned from a concussion and various upper body injuries, and he threw late touchdown passes to Chris Olave and Jimmy Graham. And the Saints beat the moribund Panthers 28-6 to pull back into a tie atop the division with two other teams. There are tiebreakers, but whatever. Mark, you know, the whole vibe around the Saints seems so weird to me and kind of toxic. Even after this win, all I see around the team, the reporting and the fans and the retweets and everything is just negativity. Like, why isn't Jimmy Graham playing more? And drama about Carr and the center fighting on the field and reporters squabbling with the head coach. Enjoy a win, guys. Christ.
I understand what you're saying. I think that like you could look at just the score of this game and it's deceiving. It was a really rough watch. On both sides, we already understand that the Panthers are a rough watch, but these two quarterbacks, and I think this frustration is just that you want to look at the win alone, isolated, cool. But it is a continuation of a disturbing pattern with Carr in the Saints. And it's like, I get that he's the lightning rod and is going to take critique no matter what he does. But both quarterbacks combined for 58 passing yards in the first half. And it does feel like a year more than any other season that I can remember where like you come out of half of these games with a quarterback that has a reputation of succeeding in the past, or at least, producing with like 18 yards or 28 yards or some nonsense. And so it was like the perfect storm of both quarterbacks playing some ghastly football out of the gate. I mean, Carr specifically was 13 for 20 for 37 yards with a bad interception. I just think there's bubbling frustration. The only thing they did well offensively early on was run the ball pretty well out of the gate. And it just all flared up from there. And it's just like if you're going to have a week where everything comes together and you look like a Saints team that we want to potentially view as a team that can win this division and without us having to see an extra game, you beat this Panthers team. And like they've got nothing. And Bryce Young at one point was like 1 for 9 to start this game. And this is a crazy stat. He averaged 13.4 air yards per attempt today, the 5th most by any quarterback in a game all year. On those passes, he was 0 for 6 in the first half and 1 for 9 with 32 yards in the whole game. It's like you're going 10, 12, 13 minutes at a time, drive after drive, where it's like no matter how depressing the Carr situation is, I just want the season to end for Bryce Young because it's like they're
the saddest team in the league.
It's sad, and it's sad because of what you've given up for him, who he is, like what he's meant to represent, and you've already fired your coach, and it's a tough watch.
They ran for 204 yards on the Saints, which is another continuing issue for the Saints, is that they get run over every week, and they still only picked up 6 points. I mean, the reason, though, that there's negativity after the game is, look, Eric McCoy is the leader of that offense. If you have to pick one player over the last, 5 to 8 years or whatever, he's the center, he's a captain, he's the leader of the offense. He's always very cool, calm, and collected. And he gets into a huge screaming match with Carr on the field that continues onto the sideline. So there's going to be a lot of questions, and they all try to downplay it, and it's unclear, honestly, what it was.
It just feels like a big misery party down there.
But that's going to be
it's a loss. It's
when
a long
that guy
season.
is getting in arguments with the quarterback. It's like, okay, what is
then bench the quarterback? Like he's already injured anyway. If everyone's so miserable about the quarterback, get the quarterback out of the lineup. I mean, I don't know.
But
just,
it isn't
just
but
from a distance. It seems a little odd that there's so much, even in a blowout win. 28-6.
I'll say this though, like
about.
They did put together 2 late touchdown drives where Jimmy Graham became a factor late in the game on that front. But it isn't like. I think to your point, Dan, like a couple weeks ago, or like the idea that like Carr's getting killed, but he's actually playing well. It's like he had a couple nice passes in this game, but we're not even getting the Derek Carr that we got a year ago in Oakland, which was not the Derek Carr we got previous to that in Oakland. So it's
I imagine he was far less than 100%. In this game, but
he's battling through injury.
I thought he played his best game of the season against the Lions last week, for what it's worth. So
some guys get presented as warriors, and then there's Carr, who's being killed for playing poorly in a game where like he barely made out of the previous game alive. I'm just like the whole vibe is frustrating to me around New Orleans right now.
McCoy did apologize to reporters about the spat, saying he shouldn't have done.
What was it
For what it's
about?
worth. Nobody, they won't say.
There's that guy John Boy.
We'll find out somehow.
Yeah, there's the guy John Boy who does mostly baseball stuff, but he has a whole empire up there in New York, and he's a great lip reader, and he does all these great videos. If you're a baseball fan,
I like that.
Reading lips of whether it's fights on the field or what's going on. We need that. We need that guy. NFL needs a version of that guy. I was thinking of that when the Mahomes sideline tirade happened. This would be another example.
Oh, maybe does John Boy have like a brother or a sister that has the same skill?
I don't know him personally. Our buddy Chris Rose works with him. So how about for the second half of the football game, we're going to try to go to watch in a few minutes.
Ask him.
We're going to ask him.
Here's
John
good
Boy
vibes.
has a brother.
A punt return touchdown on a day where Steve Gleason is there in attendance.
How about that?
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that because I was like sitting at the top of my notes and went somewhere else.
Good
But
vibes.
it was actually ruled a fumble. So it was I mean, it looked like
it was a punt though. So
it is. But that yes. I guess even to Dan's point, even that couldn't just have been what it needed to be.
You know what's remarkable? Like Steve Gleason, who had the famous block punt when they reopened the Superdome after Katrina. Late stage ALS. Like the fact that he's going to these games, remarkable.
Yeah.
Whether or not it counted.
Well, the touchdown counted. They just ruled.
No, it's nitpicky. Like
apparently, if you cause a fumble before he even tried to punt it, essentially they didn't count it.
It was a
but you're right.
vicious
He is
hit.
a remarkable human. I think he has a new book out, or he had a book. Like every time he speaks, people should listen.
There you go. Good. Enjoy yourselves, guys. It's the holidays. Let's go across the sidewalk. Chargers football.
Ball now at the Charger 46-yard line as Wilson has him at the line of scrimmage. Russ
Jeremiah
takes the
walked by
snap.
the glass before
Looks
and
to
just
his
gave a
left, now
thumbs
looks to
down.
his right.
It's tough times.
Forever to throw the ball. Steps up, now throws a deep ball. He wants Cortland Sutton in the end zone.
Oh, Greggy.
Cortland goes up.
Oh,
and
Greggy.
makes the catch. Touchdown, Denver. Penalty flag thrown.
Get your penalty flag out of my highlight. Let's
Pass
go.
interference call as Cortland, much like an NBA power forward, just blocked out Davis, caught the ball.
Football
From
is
here,
completely
it looks
different
like
than
with
basketball.
one arm.
Oh, you got in the booth.
All right.
How did you do that? Because you were in the newsroom, I thought, the whole day.
Just trotted over.
Didn't go to Browns Chargers, but decided to go to Broncos.
Well, I needed to make this comment though. I had a feeling it was coming.
Dangerous bounces back after last week's 3 interception performance. He throws 2 touchdown passes and 224 yards through the air, and the Broncos cruise over the Chargers, who are dead in the water. 24-7, the final. The Broncos keep winning, and yeah, like I said, improbably a game out in the AFC West as the Chiefs continue to struggle on their own. Okay, so who had this game?
I did.
Greg. Justin Herbert might have played his last snap this season.
So
what happened?
Bummer. Let's get to the Broncos later, but that is the biggest story to come out of this game. They're playing on Thursday night. He had a right index finger injury. It's been reported by our guy Rap Sheet. It's a fracture. And Ian said because of where this is happening in the season that he might not be able to play again this season. Brandon Staley.
What a lost year.
Right, was asked about it as well, and he said in terms of Herbert returning this season specifically, that is to be determined. So I think we can take from those comments that he's definitely not playing Thursday night. They are 5-8, and he's probably out multiple weeks, and just going out with a whimper in a 4:25 p.m. game. There's only 2 of them today. That approximately 0% of the Broncos fan part of the country was watching, and just
our market didn't get Chiefs Bills.
Right, because of this.
Oof.
Our market got
That's
it.
an absurdity.
With Easton Stick back there, and it was emblematic of what's happened because Herbert was
Hope you were at a bar.
crushed in the first half. He took 4 sacks, and he never takes sacks, but they were all over him. Their offensive line had injuries in this game. Zion Johnson got hurt, and that's been part of the season is the offensive line not nearly playing as well. Like, there was just drops. He's making some really bad throws early. It was 17-0 at one point, and then Stick gets in there, so Easton Stick didn't have a chance, and this is kind of how the Staley era ends. It's probably not going to end this week. Maybe it'll end after the Thursday night game if they want to get a jump on it, but if not, it'll happen at the end of the season.
Doesn't it seem antiquated for where we are in society that like regions of the country are still getting banged by the local team playing. I mean, this is a national sport. Like, come on, you got to give us another way to watch one of the games of the year.
Get Sunday tickets.
Right, I think it is, but I mean, tons of people are watching Red Zone too and things like that.
Not any more expensive than the other option, but I hear what you're saying.
They find a way to figure everything like this out, and so this hangs out there as an odd pathway.
Denver defense finished with 6 sacks, 2 turnovers. They held the Chargers to a combined 1 of 18 on 3rd and 4th down.
Jaquan McMillan is like a star. Every week, this undrafted slot guy makes just a couple massive plays. He was great.
Hey, if the Broncos, follow me on this one. If the Broncos ever went 10-7, Sean Payton, coach of the year?
It's got to be in the mix. I mean,
Would that be one of the greatest turnarounds?
Yeah, because I think it's like relative to what they were last year and what they are. With
I would
him.
put that similar to my fantasy team going from 1-5 to 8-6. I think that's where I kind of put that.
I think he would get consideration and should. The only part with that argument, and I've seen Broncos fans making it already, is like the main part of the argument seems to be about how they responded to 1-5. But he was the coach of the 1-5.
Right.
So he gets full credit for the 1-5 too. The fact that they're at 7-6 overall, I think, is a good coaching job. Well, but I think if you said that going into the season, that's like that's one game better than expectations.
That's also he also is taking over a team that was somewhat in tatters, with a lot of questions starting right with your quarterback. Like the defense needed time to figure itself out. So I don't really.
He's done a great job.
I don't done a great job. I just mean the 6 games that they went 1-5 count as part of the overall.
He would definitely be the first NFL coach to win Coach of the Year that also lost 70-20 in a season. That has never happened.
That is, you could cement that as true.
And Vance Joseph, I mean, this has been in the defenses capricious. How about that?
I like that.
It goes up and down, but Vance Joseph is coaching a top 10 defense now for 2 months straight. The offense has stayed about the same all year. It's been consistent. They let other teams lose games. It's a winning formula. They run the ball well enough. Wilson is a lot of checkdowns and then a lot of just bombs. And he might have gone 2 for 7 on bombs today or whatever, and that's happening every week. And yet the bombs that they hit are so worth it. Keep throwing the bombs. The Sutton catch that he had, to me, was his season in a nutshell. The other guy, the defensive back, I think it was Michael Davis, was literally holding his arm, like full hold, 2 hands on his other arm. He's 50 yards down the field, and he catches the ball with the other arm in the end zone. I think it was one of the catches of the year. It sort of got slept on because you didn't see it on the angle.
10th touchdown
when you
of the
saw
year.
the other reverse angle, it seemed completely impossible, and a beautiful throw that Wilson had all the time in the world. They're playing well.
And yet I'm not sure I want to see them in the playoffs, personally. That's a Mark thing, but I like something about them.
Who gets in instead of them? Like, would you rather? I'd rather see them over. I don't really care about them either. Julius Thomas and Demaryius Thomas were the last Denver receivers to reach double digits in touchdowns until Cortland Sutton. Those were in the Peyton Manning glory years. And also, Mark, I know you like kind of exaggerated numbers comedy. This is Russell Wilson on your corner. I think I had about 35 seconds back there, he said, about the clean pocket before the Sutton touchdown.
That's true.
I went left, went right, went through my reads, and then back to Cortland.
I mean, that's what he used to do in Seattle. So it must feel good.
I mean, that offensive line is balling out too.
They have that when Joey Bosa got hurt, that just sort of, I feel like, ended this little Chargers run.
All right, if the Panthers are the saddest team in the NFC, I think the Chargers. The AFC?
The Jets.
Agreed.
But,
No. Now the Patriots have escaped. It's the Chargers.
I mean, the Chargers feels very bleak. It feels very bleak and just depressing, and it's week after week without any light shining through.
The Jets was like kind of a tragic season, but even like today showed that they're fighting hard. I don't know if that's happening for Brendan Staley's team. They're packing up the tent.
I don't think it's happening for Brandon Staley's team, no.
All right.
Real quick, guys.
Yes.
Before we get to Sunday Night Football.
Yes.
I have something for you, Dan.
Oh.
Flacco underneath center on 3rd and 1.
Yes.
Takes it, turns, bootlegs it out to the right.
Yes.
He's got a man wide open, and Joku's got it at the 5, going in. Touchdown!
Bang! He ain't no
what
fluko.
A beautiful fake by Flacco.
Oh!
You happy?
Come on. That's a good call.
My argument wouldn't be that it's not a good call.
How did you do this? For the first time, as we've been doing this show for 11 years, you somehow turned in a great Browns touchdown into something you're needling Mark about. I mean, it's kind of
big
amazing.
surprise.
It's kind of amazing. It's a magic trick you pulled.
I'm glad that Dave Njoku got his moment. And it was a great day for Joe Flacco. Those two men deserve to be celebrated on the show.
And now they have, and I'm with you on that.
Teamwork. All right, to Sunday Night Football.
2nd and goal. Snap to Prescott, looks left. Slant! Gallup! Touchdown! That was right now.
That is 4 offensive possessions for the Dallas Cowboys, and that is 3 touchdowns and a field goal.
Man, Brad Sham, the Sham God, with the call. After the score on NBC, they cut away to Jarrah's box, which, listen, Jarrah makes the rules, although they have had trouble in the stadium's history with fire code.
You're right.
Go do your research if you don't know what I'm talking about. There had to be 300 people in that suite celebrating. Everyone vaguely looked exactly the same. Great vibes, though, for the Cowboys, who beat the Eagles 33-13. Exactly the type of comprehensive takedown of their rival that they kind of needed. Not just, Mark, to potentially steal the NFC East away from the Eagles and the top seed in the NFC, but also for the skeptics out there, they're like, they're the Cowboys, they'll find a way. Again, another performance where it's like, or this might be a different team.
They feel differently to me, and I've been a skeptic and kind of waited for Dallas to have like the kind of game where it is assured, it is cemented that they're a different type of Cowboys team. And I saw it. I mean, these two teams know each other so well, and I think they caught Philadelphia at a time where the Eagles are having some struggles of their own. But that doesn't explain, without you talking about the great nature of this Cowboys defense and what they did tonight, where you've got Stephon Gilmore playing the game of his life, punching the ball out from A.J. Brown, who that doesn't happen to A.J. Brown typically. And Devonta Smith, who has been so good for the Eagles, dropping a bomb in the end zone on a pretty good throw.
And losing a fumble himself.
And it's just, they couldn't get unhooked. And I thought, there were a couple moments here where the Eagles could have climbed back in and done what happens on like every Sunday Night Football game. And Dallas just wouldn't let them back in, even with the Fletcher Cox strip sack of Dak and Jalen Carter. That seemed like a momentum shift, but momentum doesn't exist, Greg.
I mean, it didn't in that case because the Cowboys took it right back. Every single moment in this game, they just looked like they were going to make the big plays, and the Eagles wouldn't. You look at the yardage, and it doesn't look that uneven. Yards per play, like Eagles move the ball. You're right. You mentioned those mistakes, and we didn't even mention in that grouping, Jalen Hurts lost the fumble, and A.J. Brown ended a drive with a drop that would have put them inside the 5-yard line in the first half. So they only had 8 drives when this game was still in doubt, and 3 ended on fumbles from their 3 best players, and 1 ended on a drop from one of their other best players, A.J. Brown. So that was half their drives. But I honestly don't think it would have mattered because this was going to be the Cowboys' night. On that first play call, we knew Zaddy was feeling it. The first drive, rather. Calls for that big sweep to Turpin on 3rd and 1. That was a gutsy call. They run the ball on 4th and 2 at one point, and they pick it up. They ran the ball well in the red zone. I just think Dak had so much time on that first touchdown. Like, it was all just working. When they needed to make a play, they made it. And even on the rare chances when the Eagles won up front, because actually the defensive line I thought played okay in this game, Dak just hits them with like a beautiful Eli Manning to Manningham type bomb to Gallup on the sideline. They were just better. They're just better.
That's very big of you to reference that play twice in one night.
Incredible.
Yeah, Dak with pressure in his face, dropping that in the bucket to Gallup. That just shows the zone he is in right now and has been for weeks. And I mentioned it earlier in the show, this MVP race is becoming like a corker because Dak does not lose any ground. Lamar moves up a little bit. Purdy reestablishes himself.
Tyreek on Monday night. I'm not giving up on that one either.
You can have your Tyreek MVP.
Just saying.
The QB, but these QBs, I guess what I'm saying, more not taken away from Tyreek.
I'm just saying he's one more to go. I think those are the 4 main ones right now.
But I think now we're saying, there's no quarterbacks where it's really jumping out. Some of these guys now, they're starting to stack week after week, big performances, and the numbers are getting gaudy, and that wins MVPs. But yeah, you have this game for the Cowboys, and they are like essentially unbeatable at home. Well, they are. They're not essentially unbeatable. They're 7-0 at Jerry World this year, and that is a big deal because if they can keep this up and take that top seed and make the NFC go through Dallas, once again, you're starting to think this could be a different year for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, there is an interesting stretch coming up because they are untouchable at home. Only one of their final 4 games in the regular season are at home. They have to go to Buffalo, they have to go to Miami, they play Detroit at home, then they have to go to Washington. So it's like the Cowboys have to keep proving this if they want this number 1 seed.
I guess part of like the point we were making at the beginning of this is they've proven themselves now to me. Like I don't expect them to go lay eggs anywhere now. I think
this is a different experience.
Yeah.
We've been covering this Cowboys team as a group for like a decade plus, and there was a reason to be annoyed with the pitch versus the product in past years. They're beating teams in every possible way, and they just went and did it to the Eagles, who it's like that's what I needed to see. I'm good.
So the Eagles are now 10-3. There's an instinct to say, okay, well, you just got through the toughest 5-game stretch any team's going to have all season. And you went 3-2, which isn't, if you take a step back, it's not too embarrassing. You got those wins against the Cowboys. You split with the Cowboys, against the Bills. Who's the other one that I'm missing in there?
Chiefs.
The Chiefs. And then, you lose these 2 games, but you lost these 2 games by a combined score of 75-32.
Yeah.
And
it's an eye-opener.
And you're just getting tired. And yes, their last 3 games of the season are easy, but next week you're in Seattle. So like I actually give them a slight edge to win the division just because of the schedule, and that would make all the difference in the world. And I think they're a veteran enough team that they could kind of gather their forces and improve from now until the playoffs and end up being very dangerous in the playoffs. But right now, they're not a great team. They're too deficient defensively. At one point, they had given up a score on 9 straight drives. I think they ended up finishing that game. They've now given up a score on 12 out of 14 drives. I mean, they're just not a great.
Not good enough.
They're just not a good enough defense right now. And the offense, at least tonight, one thing that they put on tape that they won't be happy with is they had no answer for the zero blitz. Just like the Cowboys just kept doing it over and over, and they didn't really have good answers for it. Ooh, where are we going?
Oh, I think you know exactly where we're going. Cowboys are not that dissimilar to the 49ers in that they can come at you in waves with big-time players and stars. And they have unearthed a major star in their special teams. It's Brandon Aubrey, the former soccer player who was, they all have great backstories. He was an accountant or something for a brief period.
Software manager after his pro soccer career didn't go well, and then his wife said, watching football, like, you could do this. So he just practiced for 3 years until he got a job.
A great wife will take you great places, including to the top of the kicking power rankings. 4 for 4 in this game with a long of 60. Also hit a 59-yarder. Also hit a 50-yarder. And he's piping these kicks. And it's bottle service. It is straight, all friends allowed in. The girls coming in with the big signs and everything and the sparklers. Like Brandon Aubrey gets all of it in their kicker club tonight. And if I may be a little more serious, this game could have turned out differently in the second half if not for Aubrey's greatness, because after the Jalen Carter scoop and score makes this a game. What's the score at that point after the extra point?
23-14.
Yeah.
23-14. The Cowboys get the ball back.
24-13.
24-13. They make a couple plays, and then the drive stalls on the Eagles side of the field. Zaddy decides to bring out Aubrey for this bomb from 59, and if he doesn't make that kick, the Eagles are coming off a defensive score, and they have the ball at midfield, and you just don't know what could happen. But the fact that he made that kick, it kind of calmed everything down. And when you have a kicker that you can rely on, the way Zaddy can rely on Aubrey, he's like a legitimate weapon and one of the biggest stories for this team this year.
Yeah, and to close the game out with 3 field goals from him, and these are drives that ended at the Philly 41, 27, and 32. So Dallas wasn't able to knock out punch with CeeDee Lamb or Tony Pollard or fill in the blank, but each of those drives ate up 5+ minutes.
Right.
So in a way, like I thought he was the executioner in this and kept chipping away and taking the life away from Philadelphia.
He's 30 for 30 on field goals.
Forget about Tucker being on top of the list. We got a new one. I mean, that's 100%. I know he doesn't quite qualify, but
not yet.
My God, they just have so many elite players. When they were showing, at the beginning when they do the starting lineups and they show the PFF grade.
Yeah.
I know PFF's not perfect now, but it's like Dak, number 1 out of 34 quarterbacks. Tyler Smith, number 1 out of 40-something guards. Tyron Smith, number 1 out of 40-something tackles. CeeDee Lamb, number 3 out of 115 wide receivers. Just like, that's a lot of elite players. Now Aubrey, maybe number 1 now out of 32 kickers.
And you wonder why Jera's box is shaking with everyone celebrating, because they have put together a monster team there. And it should be said, I went through all that. Aubrey's the first kicker to make a 59 and 60-yard field goal in the same game. So that's history.
It's pretty crazy, yeah. Like I kind of was thinking, wait, that's never happened before. But to your point,
Those are
Greg, you're saying
bombs.
yeah, that just those kicks weren't really being attempted in ages of old.
I mean, until like 10 years ago, a 59-yarder, there probably was less than 10 in NFL history.
Imagine
until like 10 years ago.
the thousands of people. This is the final week of the regular season in fantasy that went into Sunday Night Football. Their opponent just had a kicker and they had an 18-point lead. And you lose because Brandon Aubrey literally makes history. Crazy. So big win for the Cowboys.
49ers now in great position for the 1 seed.
Niners in the driver's seat, but the Cowboys right behind them if there's a slip up. And yes, the Eagles very much in the mix as well. It's going to be a great ending to this regular season in the NFC. Before we say goodbye, I want to circle back because I thought the quotes are strong enough from Mahomes on the situation at the end of the game. And we were noticing on Twitter, people were doing lip reading. And by the way, John Boy, Jimmy O'Brien, does have siblings.
Yeah, like a younger brother and 2 sisters, I believe.
Chris Rose confirmed that, but I don't know if any of them are willing to or even have the ability to help us out in that way for lip syncing or lip reading in the NFL. But we'll stay on top of that story. Here is Mahomes, who what he was so furious about was, it seems like not the Von Miller fake offsides as much. It was that they called that on Tony and given, obviously, the play that wiped out.
In that moment, I mean, I've played 7 years, never had offensive offsides called. I mean, that's elementary school. We talk about. I mean, you point to the ref, do all that different type of stuff, and it doesn't get called. And if it does, they warn you. And there was no warning throughout the entire game. And then you wait till there's a minute left in the game to make a call like that. It's tough, man. I mean, it's lost for words, man. It's tough because regardless if we win or lose, man, just for it to end with another game and we're talking about the refs, man, it's just not what we want for the NFL and for football.
And again, this is out of character for Mahomes to be this outspoken, but also what he says here about what Kelsey did on that play. And that's why, as a football fan, Greg, I know because you would pick the Bills, but like to have that exciting play wiped away, you understand the frustration, and I thought Mahomes summed that up well.
I mean, it's a legendary moment, man. I mean, nothing that's not taught, something that only a couple people in this world would even think about doing. And for him to make that play in that moment, making the catch, making a couple dudes miss, and throwing the ball across the field to another guy and scoring a touchdown in that moment, I hope they still show it whenever he goes into the Hall of Fame, because that's a legendary moment that we didn't get to really witness.
Calls back to what you said earlier, Mark.
What is it that I said?
Like one more point, and then you mentioned a play that was wiped away by penalty. You and Pat Mahomes.
Well, I mean, first of all, if I trust him to point out like an inconsistency in this call. I mean, it's not something that we see, and like I don't know, like it was so frustrating, and it's another last week. It feels like that game against Green Bay was a million years ago, but like that game was torn down by really wacky officiating. Like it stood out as one of the worst games of the year officiating, and then this happened in this moment.
Is the call wrong? Technically, no.
Right.
Should the officials maybe get the hell out of the way?
But the nuance he mentioned about like there's kind of an agreement between the officials and the
you
player.
usually the players are looking over to the side. We don't know if that happened. Like you also can't give the warning if like Tony wasn't out there and doing that in similar spots, and he has not been playing much in recent weeks. I don't know what his snap count was in this game, but it's been like under 20 snaps in general most of these weeks. And he was so far off sides, he was blocking the view of the official. So it wasn't like it was close. He was way on the other side. So I understand Mahomes' point.
Way on the other side is strong. His foot's on the line, and that
his head is blocking the official. I just mean there has been, it seems to me, an emphasis. So we checked the numbers, and there has been 13 offensive offsides called this year, which doesn't sound like much. That's 1 per week, but that's 10 more than the 2 previous seasons combined. So it was a call that they never used to call.
Point of emphasis.
And I wish I could remember, but this was called in a big spot just last week, and I was looking for it, trying to find it, and it wasn't. But it has been happening here and there, and I think it's the frustration of the whole season is just, it's part of it. It is part of it. Absolutely. And this is a safe way to take out some of that anger.
And he said, I held my nose, or I didn't say anything after that controversial Packers game. Yeah. But this time I couldn't. I don't know.
And it is brilliant from Kelsey. That was not a play call. That is something Kelsey just does. It is freaking crazy. It's true.
It didn't count. And I know Eric agrees that should have been a touchdown. Because you're a man of integrity.
All I know is this side of the glass, 2-0 in these games you guys are talking about.
No,
I don't know. So
oh, that's
Packers
right, because you got Big Funk was on the right side with the Packers.
We've actually not been listening to anything you've been saying the last 10 minutes. So
that's all right.
That would be untrue of previous producers.
Right.
You guys have to listen to plenty of honking from us.
The play was amazing.
Months.
I will give him that. Ticky-tack, yes, definitely. But hey, rules are the rules.
Just get out of the way.
Yeah, I feel you.
But if I was a Bills fan, I'd be exactly the same as you.
Yeah.
But as a football fan, I'm like, damn it, that should have counted.
There's been
that was awesome.
Countless of these games go the other way against the Bills in weird fashion. So this one, I mean,
I get it, man.
Take it when you can get it.
You have nothing to apologize for.
Thanks.
Football fans like this. Greg's like, yes, I have a pick in one of my 17 things I'm doing.
Yeah, well,
it's not 17, it's 2.
Slightly villainous. But.
Game day view. Check it out. And the locks. Let's go.
All right. All right, that is the Sunday flagship program. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back on Monday on NFL Plus, Game of the Week, and also our Monday night podcast, which is a news rundown and 2 Monday night football games.
What?
That's a real thing.
Why?
I don't know. Heed the call.